a crown forged in fire, carried through blood, for over 1,000 years. The British monarchy has survived war, betrayal, and revolution. Kings and queens rose and fell. Empires crumbled, yet the crown endured. This is not just the story of rulers. It is the story of power itself. Before castles, before crowns of gold, Britain was a land of warring tribes. The Anglo-Saxons laid the foundations of kingship. Among them rose Alfred the Great, scholar, warrior, and king, who fought off the Vikings and dreamed of a united England. When Edward the Confessor died in 1066 with no heir, England was thrown into chaos. 3 men claimed the throne: Harold Godwin's son, Harold Hardrada, and William of Normandy. What followed would change history forever. At Hastings, William the Conqueror crushed Harold's army. England fell under Norman rule. Castles rose across the land. French became the language of the court, and a dynasty of iron-handed rulers began. From the Normans came the Plantagenets, kings, who ruled with ambition and brutality. They expanded power across Europe, but their thirst for control ignited endless wars at home. But power has limits. In 1215, King John's tyranny forced the barons to rebel. At Runnymede, under threat of civil war, he sealed the Magna Carta, the great charter that first declared even kings were not above the law. From Alfred to John, the monarchy's power grew, but so did resistance. The Magna Carta was only the beginning. Ahead lay centuries of war, betrayal, and revolution that would shake the crown itself. The Plantagenets hungered for France. For over a century, England fought the 100 Years' War. Kings like Edward III and Henry V won glory on battlefields, yet the victories drained the crown's coffers and split the kingdom with unrest. As England bled, dynasties turned on each other. York versus Lancaster, 2 roses fighting for the same crown. The Wars of the Roses plunged England into a generation of civil war where kings fell and heads rolled. From the chaos rose Richard III, remembered as a ruthless usurper. His reign ended at Bosworth Field, where Henry Tudor defeated him, seizing both crown and destiny. Henry VII founded the Tudor dynasty, a new age of power and order. His son, Henry VIII, would become one of the most infamous kings in history. Henry VIII defied Rome itself, tearing England away from the Catholic Church. He married 6 wives, executed 2, and dissolved monasteries to seize their wealth. His rule reshaped faith and monarchy forever. His daughter Elizabeth inherited a kingdom divided. She never married, ruling as the Virgin Queen. She defeated the Spanish Armada, expanded exploration, and turned England into a rising world power. Under her, the crown reached new glory. The Tudors gave England power and identity, but their dynasty ended with Elizabeth's death. A new line, the Stuarts, would inherit the crown, but with them came war, rebellion, and a challenge no king had ever faced: the people themselves. When Elizabeth I died childless, the Tudor dynasty ended. The crown passed to James VI of Scotland, who became James I of England, uniting 2 kingdoms under one crown. Yet unity did not mean peace, but unrest smoldered. In 1605, Guy Fawkes and fellow conspirators plotted to blow up Parliament and kill the king. The gunpowder plot failed, but it revealed deep divisions between Protestants and Catholics. James's son, Charles I, believed in divine right, that kings answered only to God. But Parliament refused his demands for money and power. The struggle between crown and Parliament spiraled toward war. Royalists in the king's name, parliamentarians in the name of the people. In 1642, England erupted into civil war, a brutal conflict that split families, towns, and the kingdom itself. Amidst the chaos, a new figure rose: Oliver Cromwell, a Puritan soldier turned revolutionary. His disciplined new model army crushed the king's forces. For the first time in history, the monarchy faced defeat by its own people. Captured and humiliated, Charles I stood trial for treason against his own people. A king on trial was unthinkable, yet Parliament declared him guilty. His death would shake the world. On January 30th, 1649, the axe fell. England beheaded its king. Crowds gasped in silence, some in horror, some in triumph. Monarchy itself had been shattered. With the king dead, England became a republic, the Commonwealth. Cromwell ruled as Lord Protector, but his iron grip felt more like dictatorship. When he died, the people yearned for a crown once more. The monarchy had fallen, but not forever. Within a decade, the crown would rise again. The Stuarts would return, but so too would rebellion, plots, and the seeds of modern Britain. After Cromwell's death, the Republic crumbled. In 1660, Charles II returned from exile to restore the monarchy. The people cheered the crown's return, desperate for stability after years of blood and tyranny. But restoration brought new trials. In 1666, the Great Fire of London devoured the city, leaving tens of thousands homeless. The king's reign was marked not only by celebration, but catastrophe. Whispers of Catholic conspiracies haunted Charles's reign. The Popish Plot, a fabricated story of Jesuits plotting to kill the king, spread panic. England's monarchy was once again tangled in religion and fear. When Charles died, his brother James II inherited the crown. But James was openly Catholic, and England would not accept a Catholic king. Parliament and people stood ready to act. In 1688, James II was overthrown in the Glorious Revolution. William of Orange and his wife, Mary, James's Protestant daughter, were invited to take the crown. For the first time, monarchy was chosen by Parliament, not divine right. William and Mary signed the Bill of Rights, limiting the power of kings and giving Parliament supremacy. The monarchy was no longer absolute. England had entered a new age, constitutional monarchy. Mary's sister, Queen Anne, later oversaw the union of England and Scotland in 1707, creating Great Britain. The monarchy now ruled not just a kingdom, but an empire in the making. By the end of the 17th century, the monarchy had been transformed from divine rulers who could command at will to figureheads bound by parliament and law. The crown still glittered, but its power was forever changed. The Stuarts had fallen, and the crown was forever altered. But the 18th and 19th centuries would bring new empires, new revolutions, and a monarchy that would rule the world's largest empire. With Queen Anne's death in 1714, the crown passed to distant German relatives, the House of Hanover. George I and George II cared more for Hanover than England, leaving Parliament to grow in power while kings faded into the background. But the empire was restless. Under George III, Britain's American colonies rebelled. In 1776, the United States declared independence. For the first time, the monarchy lost not just land, but the loyalty of millions. Defeat in America did not end Britain's story. Against Napoleon's empire, Britain rose again. At Trafalgar and Waterloo, the monarchy's forces defeated France and secured Britain as Europe's leading power. While wars raged abroad, revolution erupted at home, not of muskets, but of machines. The Industrial Revolution transformed Britain into the workshop of the world. The monarchy presided over railways, factories, and booming cities. In 1837, a young queen took the throne, Victoria. She would reign for more than 60 years, becoming the very symbol of empire. Her era defined monarchy for a new world. Under Victoria, Britain expanded into Africa, India, and beyond. By the end of her reign, the empire stretched across a quarter of the globe. The sun never set on Britain's monarchy. But the Victorian age was not just empire. It was science, invention, and social reform. The monarchy stood as a moral guide in an age of poverty, progress, and power. When Victoria died in 1901, millions mourned across continents. Her funeral was not only the end of a queen, but the end of an age. The monarchy entered the 20th century with glory and shadows intertwined. The monarchy had reached its zenith, but storm clouds gathered. The 20th century would bring world wars, abdications, and scandals. The crown would endure, but never the same. Victoria's son, Edward VII, ushered in a new age of monarchy. A playboy prince turned king. He redefined the crown's image, charming Europe's royals while the empire stood at its peak. But glory faded into war. In 1914, Britain marched into the Great War. Millions died in the trenches, and the monarchy itself came under suspicion, its German roots clashing with British patriotism. To survive, George V abandoned the royal families. German name, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, and rebranded as the House of Windsor. The crown had adapted, reshaped by fire and necessity. Then came scandal. Edward VIII fell in love with Wallis Simpson, an American divorcee. Parliament, the Church, and the Empire said no. Edward chose love over crown, abdicating in 1936. His brother, George VI, became king. George VI faced Britain's darkest hour. During the Blitz, bombs rained on London. Yet the King and Queen Elizabeth stayed in the capital. Their courage inspired a nation to endure. In 1952, a young princess became queen. Elizabeth II would reign longer than any monarch in British history, guiding the crown through decolonization, Cold War, and modern transformation. As colonies won independence, the empire dissolved. Yet Elizabeth reshaped the monarchy into a global commonwealth, a family of nations bound by history, not conquest. From abdication to empire's end, the crown had survived disaster after disaster. But the modern world demanded even greater change. Scandals, tragedy, and a new generation would test the monarchy like never before. In 1981, the world stopped. Prince Charles married Lady Diana Spencer in a ceremony watched by 750 million people. It seemed a fairy tale, but behind palace walls, fractures already formed. Diana captured hearts across the globe. Her warmth, her compassion, her defiance. She was unlike any royal before her. Yet her marriage was unraveling, shadowed by infidelity and isolation. The 1990s shook the monarchy. Divorce, affairs, and tell-all interviews shattered its image. The crown was suddenly human, flawed, vulnerable, and on trial in the court of public opinion. Then came tragedy. In August 1997, Diana died in a Paris car crash. Shock turned to fury. The royal family's silence enraged the nation. Only after Elizabeth II bowed to public grief did the monarchy begin to heal. The 2000s brought rebirth. William and Harry stepped forward as symbols of a new generation. William's marriage to Kate Middleton rekindled royal glamour, while Harry's path sparked controversy and departure. Yet scandals lingered, from Prince Andrew's disgrace to Harry and Meghan's split with the crown. For many, the monarchy seemed outdated, but for others, it remained a living link to history itself. In 2022, Elizabeth II passed away after 70 years on the throne. The world mourned the woman who had been Britain's anchor through a century of change. Her son Charles became king. Yet the question lingers, can the monarchy survive the 21st century? From conquest to crisis, from glory to scandal, the British monarchy has endured for 1,000 years. But its greatest test is not in the past, it lies in the future. Will the crown rise, or will it finally fall? Kindly hit the subscribe button and like the video for more interesting histories.